Ooh, ways to save money in everyday life, just for the average Joe. If your name's not Joe, you can still watch it. The first way you can drastically drop your monthly expenses is by cutting cable. Cutting cable will allow you to have more money at the end of the month because you'll be spending less on expenses. And if you don't have cable, make a list of all of your subscriptions or streaming services or whatever you pay on a monthly basis and see what you can cut out. What do you need and what do you not need? You don't need Hulu, Netflix, and HBO Max. You can probably cut out at least one of those, so you need to decrease your monthly expenses by cutting out cable or any other monthly subscription that you don't use. If you can live without it, go ahead and cancel it. And remember, it's not permanent, so if you cancel something, you can always get it back. Just try it for a couple months and then see if you need it, because these monthly expenses can add up and it will save you a ton of money by canceling some of them. The next way that you can save money is by going grocery shopping once a week. You're forcing yourself to meal plan and meal prep. You'll be spending less money at the grocery store by not buying things you don't need, and you'll be prepping your meals, so you'll probably end up eating out less than you would if you just went to the store as you needed things. And when you are grocery shopping, you should be shopping clearance items and store brand items. The store brand items are usually the exact same as the name brand items. They're just a little bit cheaper and they work just the same depending on the product, obviously. But for the most part, I found that the store brand items are pretty similar to the name brand, except they're a couple dollars cheaper, which really adds up when you buy it over and over again and when you have a big grocery trip. The next way to save money that is very easy is buying gifts in advance. All this takes is a little bit of planning and discipline. Buying your gifts in advance saves a ton of money, especially when it comes to themed holidays such as Christmas, Valentine's Day, Easter, any of those things that you partake in and you buy gifts. They're usually far more expensive as the day gets closer. So the earlier you plan out your gifts, the cheaper the gifts usually are, depending on what you get. So planning out your gifts in advance is a really easy way to save money. Before jumping into the next way you can save money, don't forget to smash that like button. It is free after all, so you don't spend a dime, and it really helps my content reach the people that need to see it. So smash that like and let's get back into it. The next way that you can lower your monthly expenses is by lowering your housing costs. So housing is probably the majority of your monthly bills. That's where most of your money that you make is going. So by lowering your housing expenses, you'll drastically lower your monthly expenses as a whole and you'll be spending less money. A good rule of thumb is to try to keep your housing expenses, like your rent or your mortgage, under 30% of your monthly income. Otherwise, you're considered house poor, and nobody wants to be house poor living in a house that you can't afford. So keep that rent under 30% of your monthly income. And it might seem impossible to lower your housing costs, but it's easier than you think, and it's definitely worth a shot to try a few of these. If you rent a space like a house or an apartment, you can always get a roommate. If you do have that extra space, that would significantly decrease your monthly expenses. And you could also ask the landlord or property manager if you could provide a service in exchange for a lower rent. So if you did your own maintenance or did maintenance for other people, or if you did the bookkeeping for the leasing office, or just any service that you think is worth something or helpful, you could always ask to provide that service in exchange for a lower rent. The worst they're gonna say is no, but the best case scenario is they say yes and then you're paying less for rent. So it's definitely worth a shot to just ask or get a roommate. And if you own a house, you can also lower your expenses by getting a roommate or renting out a space in your house. You could also refinance to get a lower interest rate on your mortgage, or you can consider selling altogether if it's right for you. It all depends on your kind of situation, but there are ways that you can lower your housing costs. The next way that you can save money and lower your monthly expenses is by paying off your debt. And by paying off your debt, you'll free up so much more money where you can put it into investments or just put it into your savings. But to tackle your debt, you should be tackling the highest APR first. So that's generally going to be credit card debt. A lot of people go the route of paying the lowest balance first, but I think it's way more important to tackle the highest interest rate first so that you're paying less over time. But if you're not good with money and it's going to be really hard for you to try to pay off your debt, then maybe start with the lower amount. But I highly recommend starting with the higher APR first so that you can save money in the long run. And the less debt that you have, the more money you'll be able to budget. So you can save that money, invest that money. You just have way more freedom in that sense. So getting out of debt has far more benefits. And I know that living below your means is really difficult, but it doesn't have to be. Just start with one of these things and you'll see your monthly expenses drop drastically and you'll be saving so much money, and you can make that money work for you and start making money rather than spending more than you're earning. Just always make sure you are spending less than you make. And to do that, check out this video on how to create a successful budget, and I'll see you guys next week.